and it's evident that none of us likes to suffer. That's how it is. And the moment you place hopes in a person, if things don't go as they should, this implies emotional harm. And this is not fixable, and it can't be fixed with self-love either. Because it's one thing to love yourself enough to do the right thing, and another thing to not care about anything. That's not self-love, that's psychopathy, to give it a name. So I have to understand that evidently. Let's see. Love is a gamble, it's a leap of faith. That is to say, when we interact with other people, thank you. This will involve a certain degree of vulnerability on our part. The right thing to do is indeed to try to take things slowly, not to immediately fall into fantasizing and getting overly excited, to try as much as I can, not to get too committed to the outcome. The thing is, it's obviously difficult. When someone attracts you more, the other day I was talking with a client who told me, Amanda, it's just too hard for me. When someone truly attracts me, I can't help it. To really want this to go well, and I feel the pressure. So then it's harder for me to be myself and not flow as naturally, or I don't like as much how I react, compared to people who don't attract me as much anymore. But it's inevitable. It's normal that when someone motivates you, there's a certain pressure and there's a certain pursuit of the outcome. So there's a part that you will be able to control, and especially the measure there is to say, I try not to give myself over to the fantasy so much. I try to maintain, even though it's pleasant, even though it's enjoyable to escape and think about this person, I try not to do it so much because I know where it leads me. I'm getting to know myself. But then, no matter how good our intentions are or how well we manage this, inevitably, I repeat, if I meet someone, I feel that this is mutual. There's a certain chemistry. We understand each other. Something starts to develop. I'm going to get excited, and this is normal. And if at some point this person starts to act colder or no longer shows me the same interest or doesn't put in the effort, then right there, at that very moment, this is going to hurt me. And so, because I don't like it, because we don't want to suffer, we tend to choose a shortcut, which is I will end up being the one who takes on the effort and puts in for both of us. I will end up being the one who wears myself out by being the one who seeks, who writes to you, who proposes, who deceives myself, who justifies, to give another explanation to the evident fact that what's happening is that there isn't enough interest. Since that also hurts me, I spend a lot of mental energy finding other explanations, making this plausible, looking for a way to give myself a sufficiently acceptable narrative in my mind so that I can still cling to hope and keep moving forward. But here's the problem, and I'm going to tell you something. The wear and tear initially doesn't make you as sad as having to accept the reality that what's happening is that this person doesn't have enough interest. Maybe they were getting to know you, and now they've met someone else who motivates them more, who is more relevant at the moment. That is to say, there's something going on. It's not normal for a person, you say, look, we're communicating every day, there's a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of interest, and suddenly one day this changes. The frequency of messages changes, the enthusiasm changes. We had plans for the weekend, and now the person doesn't know anymore. All of this, no. This isn't because they have more work that day. It's not because suddenly a problem has come up. In most cases, in more than 90% of cases, something is happening here. And in many cases, nowadays, it's quite common, since we don't limit ourselves to getting to know just one person, but sometimes we engage in conversations with several, someone new, someone novel has appeared. This, in the case of men, is usually more noticeable than in the case of women, because they tend to put a lot of intentionality into what they want and are more intense. And they are worse at doing more than one thing at a time. So in the case of a woman, she might be able to hide it more. But with men, it's quite noticeable quickly. So what is happening is that indeed, yes, you are losing this person's attention. This person is giving you less interest at that point. So If you take that moment and accept it and realize, aha, this is the reality, I've just had a setback. This person is not as motivated as they should be. This already looks like it's going to start going wrong. We probably won't reach a good outcome. We won't reach a relationship. If instead of doing that at that moment, if you do that and accept it, at that moment you will feel sorrow. That day you will probably be sad. And the next day you might also wake up sad. It will take you some time, let's say, to digest that loss of hope more than what you had with the person, because in most cases there usually hasn't been enough time for much. It's more a mourning for what could have been, for the hopes you had, which, as I say, are controllable to a certain extent. There is another point that will arise naturally. Well, I tell you that it is truly preferable there, that you are able to see this and get used to the fact that in this situation, you hold on to reality and start digesting the lack of excitement, and you don't seek out this person. Also, when this person looks for you later on, if they do, which they probably will, you should keep in mind that they have already shown you to what extent they are getting involved, what kind of person they are, that they like to have multiple options, that they don't see enough potential to be clear with you, that maybe they are someone who plays games. Keep this in mind and say, I don't really feel like continuing to get involved with you, or at least not taking you seriously. It's preferable to say this than to say, okay, if I don't do this, if I minimize the desire to see reality, if I think, well, I justify, it's no big deal. Okay, I'm going to send them a message, yes. Or I'm going to propose something. Or, well, I'm going to give them a little leeway, but I'm going to make sure this continues. I choose it, I'm going to start wearing myself out. The wear and tear at the beginning doesn't cause much pain, it doesn't make you suffer as much. It's like a cushion that we place between the reality of the situation and ourselves. But the wear and tear eventually leads to pain and leaves you even worse off. That's the problem. Why? Because when you face the pain head-on from the start, you are strong. That is to say, you have energy. It will make you sad, but you have energy. But when you choose wear and tear, besides the fact that this unbalanced situation becomes more unbalanced, because from that point on, that person will start to undervalue you and you will start to undervalue yourself. That is to say, you will harm your self-esteem. You harm yourself, as I say. You drain yourself of that energy, of that effort, of having to be yourself, because this is not easy. That is to say, having to justify on one hand and maintain yourself on the other. A connection so that communication doesn't stop, so that you don't lose sight of each other, so that it is maintained. To the extent that this person allows you, requires dealing with a lot of emotional fluctuations. Because there is a part of you that will be asking you to stop, and another part of you that wants to avoid the suffering that will urge you to continue. So, between the internal dilemma, seeing how you can reconcile with the person, not feeling enough, that this person starts to belittle you, that you start to justify, that you go from such, there comes a moment when you can't take it anymore, the sorrow, that sadness you wanted to avoid, is no longer avoidable. And when it arrives in a much worse state. That is to say, you no longer have the energy to withstand the blow. Sometimes you feel very bad because it is very draining. So truly, don't get involved in it. Don't get involved in it. When you truly let go of something, you sometimes realize it in weeks, how suddenly you regain a different vitality. And as I said at the beginning, a different kind of peace. It's truly preferable to be at peace and sad than to be in absolute tranquility, feeling in love with someone and anxious. Because also, in the end, as I say, if you don't face the pain of accepting that it's over. But otherwise, you face a constant unease of being aware, even if you don't want to see it, that this is going wrong, that it could end at any moment, that it could even happen that the other person doesn't even allow you to be there unilaterally making all the effort. And besides, it's like, here I am again, the one reaching out to you. And one day they make you wait 2 hours, and the next day it's already 5 hours. And by the week, they respond with an answer that doesn't invite you to have a conversation, right? A closed response. Ha, ha. An icon, something like that. And what do I do? And how do I maintain it? And how do I revive the conversation? And how do I act like nothing is happening? And so on. And this is undignified for you. Let's be clear. Let's call things by their name. It's humiliating. Humiliating. And it's sad. And honestly, it's very unnecessary. Truly, you don't deserve it. I mean, to begin with. No worthwhile relationship is built unilaterally. It really takes two. To create something worthwhile, it takes two, and the journey will be pleasant. That is to say, establishing a relationship is not a hard job. Until you finally convince the other person and finally have them hooked. No. The process of a relationship, when it goes as it should, is pleasant. You are calm, you are enjoying it. It's like the nervousness is like the excitement of a child on Christmas Eve. That kind of nervousness. Not the kind of nervousness like, okay, let's see, how are things going? What did we achieve yesterday? Okay, we managed to get them to write to us at that moment. Okay, I did this well. Because here they told me how handsome or beautiful I look. No, it's not the kind of nervousness like, I'm going to an exam and please I pray to the one above that this goes well. It's not like that. So really, don't get into the habit of silencing your intuition. If you were fine, comfortable in the situation with this person, and at some point you stop feeling comfortable and start feeling bad, something is happening. Sometimes it starts subtly. And it's preferable that when in doubt, thank you. Don't overcompensate. If you want, wait a bit to see what the other person does. Or it's even preferable to ask openly, hey, is everything okay? Or, I realize I have the impression that something has changed. I notice you are different. That's right, ask openly. It's not undignified, it's I want to know what's happening. I'm not a telepath, I'm not in your mind. Do I notice something strange? I want to know if it's just my impression so I don't become distant and it turns out it's not from your side, or if it's something very obvious, because sometimes it's no longer intuition, it's evidence. That is to say, this person has completely changed their pattern. There are people who go from taking a lot of initiative to suddenly not taking any at all. Something is happening here. It's not your intuition, it's your common sense. It's pure and simple logic telling you that something is going on. When it's a matter of logic, when there's no doubt, I wouldn't even ask for explanations because I know what's happening. If you need them to address this and accept it and process it calmly, do it. There's no need to create a drama. Do it in a mature way. Hey, is something going on? Such. When this person gives you a vague justification, takes all day to respond, and at the last minute comes up with a silly excuse about this or that, don't invest anymore. And even the idea that it's not. That finally shows you that if it's good, stop being surprised, but it's better to say, okay, I'm not fooling myself. But don't fall into overcompensation. Don't fall into the trap of, since I don't want to suffer, I'm willing to invest. I'm willing to make an effort. I repeat, wearing yourself out is not the alternative to suffering. Wearing yourself out is asking for a postponement for suffering that will overwhelm you later and worse. Trying to avoid the pain will make it worse later. Truly. So we have to be clear here. There is no way to face relationships and not get hurt. There is a degree of vulnerability that we cannot avoid, and when we get our hopes up, it will hurt. But handling situations promptly avoids most of the damage. And it's not the same to spend a week feeling a bit sadder, more apathetic, less eager to meet people, with less enthusiasm, as it is to invest a lot of time in a story and then take many months to recover. There's no comparison. There's no comparison. So truly, let's not be afraid of relationships. Let's accept that one of the possibilities when getting to know someone, and which is sometimes more common, is that this might not work out. Well, that's it. If that's the case, then the moment I see from your side, there's not what there needs to be, I'm not willing to provide it. It's about understanding in the end. I'm not willing to make an effort for someone who is showing me they have no interest. I'm not willing to swallow your lies. And above all, I'm not willing to let it steal my emotional peace. My emotional peace is non-negotiable. And moreover, to top it off, I know that this is not going to result in you thanking me later and leading us to the relationship I want. No, this is only going to lead, as I say, to greater harm. So it's not smart, it's not worth it for you. Well, I know this is probably not the video you like the most, I'm sorry. But I'm trying to help you. And if you put this into practice, it can save you a lot of pain and a lot of wasted time with people who aren't worth it. If you liked it and you're not subscribed, I invite you to do so. Click the bell because I would love for us to see each other again very soon. And until then, as always, I send you a big kiss.